All right, first of all, I apologize to you guys for one schedule change from yesterday and to today, moving things up. We just did that to try and not necessarily beat the heat. It's still hot whether you're out there at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. Chance I heard yesterday of some afternoon storms and things like that, so wanted to beat that and then give our guys a little bit more recovery time before we start meetings today. So I apologize for the moving things up an hour, and then I apologize for the change in locations. Sorry if any of you guys had to lug equipment into the stadium and then had to walk back over here as well. But you got your steps in today and whatnot also. But don't like changing things on you, so I apologize for that as well. Got a lot of good work in today. We were out there for a little over 100 plays. Finished up a little bit early because we did cut some things out of that, believe it or not. As far as the number of plays we were going to get, but we were very efficient and got a lot of plays run, obviously in a short period of time. That doesn't mean that we're all of a sudden like this up-tempo offense going fast. I'm not saying that. Our guys were just very efficient, getting out of the huddle and getting reps and getting on and off the field as well. 100 plays in. Got a lot of game work. We were able to utilize the iPads like we'll be able to use in games this season. I know from just talking to Lenoris outside a minute ago at lunch, it was very beneficial for him. We utilized the radio and the helmet communication with the quarterbacks and the guys on defense. That was very beneficial without a doubt. So that was good work. We started at midday intentionally at 11 a.m., knowing that we will have some midday kickoffs as well. Sorry. I think I saw you lugging equipment in at the stadium, so I just apologize to this group that I know people lugged equipment into the stadium, then had to drag it all the way over here. My apologies for changing on you. I'm sorry as well. But started at midday intentionally. We play LSU at noon. Oklahoma and Alabama are going to be early kickoffs as well, noon Eastern, 11 Central type games. So thought it would be really beneficial for us to be able to get some work at midday as well. And it was really, really hot, obviously, but our guys pushed through. We talk all the time about, staying in the fight. And our guys did push through and got some really good work in today. We've had a good week, grinded through this week, really liked the work our guys put in practice leading up into today. Without a doubt, we've got a big week coming up. Today's not over. We've got lunch right now. Then they get a little bit of a break while the coaches watch the tape of the scrimmage, and then the players will be back over here at 5:15 today to watch the tape of the scrimmage from today, and then we're right back at it. The meetings tonight, and right back at it tomorrow morning with another practice. So we're back on the grind as we talk to the players about after practice. But overall, really like this group, the way they're working and the way they're coming together. Without a doubt. Injury-wise, just normal bumps and bruises associated with preseason training camp. These guys didn't scrimmage today. Marquis Anderson, Vandravius Jacobs, Elijah Davis, Chakai Moore, Reed McKeska, Juju McDowell, Bam Martin Scott, and Rocket Sanders. Rocket, Bam, Juju, Reed, Chakai, Elijah, Dre, and Marquis. Nothing major. All those guys practiced this week and had some just normal bumps and bruises and did not go today. Expect all of them to be back at practice tomorrow and ready to rock and roll. So got through the scrimmage, I think, health-wise, pretty good. Had a couple of things that popped up, but I don't think it'll be anything long-term as we just came off the field just a little bit ago. Hopefully that's the case. And with that, any questions?
I'll show you one other guy potentially. Michael Smith, okay out there today?
Did he look okay?
Yeah, or was he hurt or banged up or anything?
No, is that the rumor?
No, just something I saw and probably just saw wrong.
I don't think so. Not that I know of. He's last time I saw him, he was catching a touchdown in the end zone today in practice. So hopefully nothing happened after that. But that was towards the end of the scrimmage.
And then there's been some report outs lately that the SEC might be going to an injury report this season. Have you and the other coaches talked about that? Do you think it's imminent, and what do you think about it if so?
I do think it is. There's a lot of reasons behind that the SEC is doing that or thinking about doing that. It's something, David, that we talked about in Destin at our head coach our league meetings back in May. We did talk about that as head coaches. I have no problem with it. We actually did it when I was at Virginia Tech working for my dad. The ACC had that policy. I forget what year I was there, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, but one of those years, or at least, or maybe more, there was a policy for injuries that you had to put out. And I have no issues with it. We've been fairly forthcoming, I guess, when it comes to injuries, and as long as everybody's, playing by the same rules, I'd have no issues.
How did Lenoris look today, and did he get all of the first-team reps at quarterback? Or
Lenoris looked good. He and Robbie got some work with the first group. Lenoris got some work with the second group. Davis Bevel got some work with that second group. So I thought Dal did a good job of rotating all those guys in there and getting them work. Thought Lenoris did a good job. We thought he looked very poised and composed out there, made some nice throws, had some nice runs, managed the offense the right way. Robbie Ashford flashed. Davis made some good throws. So I thought overall, I think Lenoris has had, a good end of the week. Not that the first of the week was bad, but the last couple of days I've really been impressed with him and like the way that whole group is coming together in that quarterback room right now.
Obviously, even outside of the quarterback room, there's a lot of changes on that offense. Just obviously, I'm sure there's still a lot of work to do, but did you see today out of that group what you wanted to see at this point?
Yeah, I felt like we had some self-inflicted things today that from an offensive standpoint that we'll lose football games, whether it be drops or some penalties. You got a drive going, and then you have a penalty that backs you up. So stuff today that we can correct. But I thought, our guys did a good job overall of moving the football. I thought our defense did a great job when the offense got down in the red zone or maybe had an explosive play. The defense responded the right way. Offensively, there's no question we have to do a better job of finishing drives and making sure that we're not doing things that beat ourselves, because we certainly had a lot of that last year. But overall, I was pleased, especially not having, Marquis Anderson, who we're counting on, and Jakai Moore, who we're counting on, and, Juju's going to have a critical role in this offense, and you hope that Vandravius Jacobs continues to come along and whatnot. So with those guys that were out there, saw enough that, typically scrimmage ones are favor the defense anywhere that I've ever been. And it'll be very good. I'll be very eager to see how the offense responds this week before we go into next Saturday's opportunity back out there in the stadium.
I think a couple of the edge guys, linebackers, have talked about almost hockey shifts when it comes to that group. What did it look like in a scrimmage situation of the rotations between the edge guys and the defensive line?
Probably like a hockey shift. There's not a first group, second group, third group. I mean, I saw. Yeah, you talk about the top six guys. I saw all six of them in with all three groups, and that's what I told Sterling yesterday. Do what you need to do to get those guys some work, and we only have six. You'd love to have a little bit more, so we actually had to use some other bodies just to spell those guys. So we were out there for 100-plus plays today. We needed to be smart with not just playing those six all 100, so we got some other bodies in there to spell those guys, but that's absolutely what it was. All those guys bring a skill set to that group, and like the way they're working and coming along right now.
Hey, Shane, got two for you. First off, Mo Kaba spoke to us earlier this week, said he felt 100%. How do you feel like he looked out there, with everything he's coming off of?
I thought Mo did a good job. I thought he's had a good week. I think you guys have been at some practices in the past where we do some of those one-on-ones and call the whole team up and have somebody do a one-on-one rep against another player, and we did that earlier this week with Mo and one of the running backs, and Mo won the rep, and it was great to see that and just the response of his teammates around him as well. And he's good. He's very, very workmanlike in what he's doing, and without having watched the tape already, I thought he had a solid day.
And then, with the receivers and stuff, I know you said the offense, maybe had some drops or whatever. From your standpoint, you guys have, a lot of big guys out there, a lot of smaller, quicker type of guys. Is it kind of how you pictured the receiver room looking with this first scrimmage today?
Yeah. When you talk about that group, there's no question it is what it is. We have more smaller guys, if you will, than bigger guys. We don't have our top guys are not that body type. But then you also have, Dale Von Campbell and Nick Harbor, who are big bodies on the outside. So I think between Camp and Nick, you got two guys that give you that big presence at the receiver position. And then you've got some other guys that certainly can make plays and have a skill set. And then I wouldn't, rule out I really like our tight end group. When you talk about Brady Hunt, you talk about Josh Simon, nobody ever talks about Maurice Brown. That guy's going to play a lot for us on offense this year. Mike Smith, David mentioned him, is going to play a lot for us on offense this year. So we're excited about what those two guys have brought to the equation in that tight end room. And like I told our team the other day, Jack, like my job as the head coach is every single week to do what gives us the best chance to be successful and put the best 11 guys out there to play. And whether that means 4 receivers or whether that means no receivers, we'll do what gives us the best chance to win football games. Same thing with running backs, tight ends. Let's find out what these guys do and give them opportunities to go make plays at the running back, tight end, and receiver position.
Kind of stick with the running back. You were down 2 today. Who else was working with the first team at running back? And you feel like you were able to make the progress you wanted in the running game, even without
we don't have a depth chart, so there is no first team. So just like the tight ends, just like the edge guys, just like the quarterbacks, we had a bunch of running backs that were working with the first group in there. So Oscar Attaway got to carry the ball a lot. Thought he ran the ball physical and got north-south. DJ Braswell had some nice runs today and flashed and had some explosive plays, very similar to what he had in the spring game, if I remember correctly. Jaworn Howe got some work in there with those top guys. Matthew Fuller is a young freshman that we're excited about. I thought he ran the ball very hard today and didn't look like a true freshman running back. He ran physical, so I told the coaches last night, Alan, I don't care who you put in there. We'll have this group. This will be the A group, B group, C group, first group, second group, third group, whatever you want to call it, and rotate your guys in there. And we told the players in the team meeting this morning that, today's scrimmage is let's figure out, let's have a better idea when we come out of here let's have a clearer picture of what August 31st is going to look like when we open up with Old Dominion and who's going to be out there. So that meant that a lot of guys got work today with that first group and second group and third group, over 100 plays.
I'm sorry if you've already been asked this, but
Well,
when you go
ask it again because I made you carry equipment in the stadium into your car, then back up here.
when you go back and watch the film, are you watching the film differently than you would for a normal game? Are there things that maybe you're going to focus on a little bit more for the scrimmage, or maybe not harp on as much because it is a scrimmage?
Yeah, great question. Not really. I'd say the only difference is with, for me personally, when I'm watching it, if it's on a Sunday after a game, I'll come in, and if the offense has 60 plays against Old Dominion, I'll watch all 60 plays the offense had in a row, and then I'll flip over to the defense, and then I'll watch the defense's 60 plays. Whereas in a scrimmage like this, offense's defense is on the same play, if that makes sense, because you're on the same team. So I'll watch it, and on my computer in the office, there's a sideline view, and then I go then it goes straight to the end zone view of the offense, so I can see the offense from behind. And then on the same play, it goes to the defensive view where I see the defense from behind, and I can really just watch each individual player, all 22 that are on the field at the same time. Probably, I don't want to say more in-depth, but in season, you kind of know who your guys are. You're watching scheme and how teams are attacking you, whereas today when I go back in there, as soon as I walk out of here, I'll sit in my office and it'll be watching more the 22 players on the field each and every snap. But then especially talking about, the things, just making sure that the guys that are on there each and every play are playing the way that we want on the play, with effort and flying to the ball and all that as well. We really, coach that hard and want to make sure our guys see what we want that to look like.
Shane, you mentioned Smith scored a touchdown. Who else scored or maybe got a turnover today?
Not many, Dave. Like I said, we had some drives that we didn't finish. Whether we got in scoring territory and we missed a field goal, we got in scoring territory and we had some negative yardage plays on offense. It took us out of field goal range. We had Mike caught a pass, and we had a little goal line play, so the offense started on the 2-yard line, and it was so they didn't drive the ball down the field. And Matthew Fuller, I believe, scored on that one with that group. Isaiah McCleary had an interception. I think that's back-to-back times in the stadium now because he had one in the spring game too. So that's a positive for the offense. We didn't, for the most part, they didn't turn the ball over. We had one interception, and that was just on a little hitch route out in the flat. and Isaiah made a good play at the corner position. So offensively pleased because we didn't turn the ball over. We can't beat ourselves and shoot ourselves in the foot and not finish drives. So we need, from a head coach standpoint, defensively, we need more takeaways. From a head coach standpoint, offensively, proud of the offense, the way they protected the football. And we didn't have a lot of pre-snap penalties on either side of the ball, which was very good. And I think it was 103 total plays to have very few pre-snap penalties. That's a good thing, especially out there in that heat. Now we got to be better about just making sure we don't have the holding penalties and the hands to the face and some of that stuff that we had today that are critical penalties while the play is going on.
Well, aside from maybe some of those penalties you mentioned, how do you feel the offensive line performed today and I guess throughout the first 7 days of practice?
I feel pretty good. They've battled for one, outside of Marquis and Ja'Kai not playing today. They've been healthy, and Marquis just had something that he kind of tweaked a little bit. What's today? Yesterday, I guess, or Thursday, and then Ja'Kai, same thing. Like I said, expect both of them back at practice. So first part is they've been out there, they've stayed in the fight. We've got a full group out there where we're not like banged up right now. So proud of them from that standpoint, the way they prepared their bodies over the summer to withstand the rigors of training camp. And then overall, I've been pleased. I like the way that group is working. Lonnie is, mixing guys in and out and getting them work at different spots. And I feel like those guys have done a good job. I like the way that we've run the ball in practice this week for sure. And it was good to see some of those backs carry the ball today. We really wanted to come out of this scrimmage having a good idea about the running backs and who we can count on right now and who may be in that rotation going forward. And the offensive line out there gave us an opportunity to do that, in my opinion.
I know a lot of the focus is obviously on how Lenoris is playing on the field, and last year was about Spencer, but I'm just curious in what ways you've seen Lenoris grow, either as a leader, as a person, kind of making that jump from rookie to sophomore year.
Yeah, he's consistent. I mean, that's just who he is. He's the same guy now that he was last year, maybe as a true freshman at this time, and that's a great thing. He's steady, he's consistent, but he's just nothing, phases him. He was just out there before I walked in eating lunch and kind of going back and forth with one of the linebackers about something that happened in practice. And today in practice, he had a ball that got batted down on a throw, and TJ Sanders and some of the defensive linemen were on the sideline kind of giving him crap about it. And Lenoris was getting the play call from Dow in his ear, but he was able to listen to the play call and then turn around and tell TJ to be quiet as well. So that's something probably that he wouldn't have done last year, and it kind of took me by surprise, like, man, Lenoris. But just stuff like that. He's having fun out there. He's got the respect of his teammates, and Lenoris to me is the same guy. I think around him, the way his teammates view him, he has their respect, and they think a lot of him as a teammate and a player.
Speaking of having fun out there, I imagine for some of the guys on the team, that was their first chance to play on that field. Is it cool for you to get to watch them get that first experience, or are you mostly like, let's rein them in and get them focused?
No, it's cool, and we talk about it, that the excitement that I want our guys to have every time they get the opportunity to go in that stadium. Like, to me, when you walk across the street, when you walk across Bluff Road and you get to walk in that gate, through that tunnel, into Williams-Brice Stadium, it's special, it should be different, and it should mean something. And we talked about it today. I mean, in our team meeting this morning before we walked across the street, we showed a video of how great this stadium is and how special it is, and don't ever take for granted getting to go compete on that field as well. So I want them to embrace it. It was, for a lot of those guys, their first time. I walked across the street next to a couple of our freshmen that just got here, and I'm like, "Are you excited?" And they both said just how nervous they were and things like that, but excited about being out there in the stadium, and I want that. But then once you get out there and you start playing, there's so much coming at you. I don't think those guys have a whole lot of time to kind of sit around and think about it, because it hits them in the face pretty quickly once we start.
Two things. The first, you've mentioned how hot it is a couple times. We've seen at the practice field, you've got like the shipping containers into like freezers. What is that a new thing this year, and how do you use that for your team?
Yeah, those are not new. We've had them. I guess since my first year, I think we've had them out there. I believe we use those, Jordan, as just what you would think, an opportunity. We have a break in the middle of practice that's basically, we kind of tell our players it's like halftime. And it's 5 minutes. We've just had a period. It's about the halfway point of practice, probably a little bit over the halfway point of practice. Horn blows. They have to go over there and sit down and get something to drink. Yemi and our nutrition staff, they have snacks over there for them during that time. Some of them go in the tank. Most of them do. You go in there and there's, 50 defensive players and 50 offensive players in those little things. And it's just, they're really, really cold, as you can imagine. So it brings their body temperature down and just kind of juices them up a little bit. And then we come right back out like we tell our players. It's just like coming out of the locker room at halftime. And then we usually come out of those things right into a special teams period with Joe D, just like a game would be after halftime. You kick off or go to kickoff return. So that's what it's for and why we utilize it. We usually have them out there probably till about the, first or second week of the season, and then we get rid of them and stop doing the break.
The other thing, you mentioned there was a missed kick today. What have been your thoughts through a couple practices on the kicking competition?
I think it's been very inconsistent. I think all those guys have had opportunities in practice that they've taken advantage of, and then they've also missed some really good opportunities to take a step forward. So it's I don't think we're any closer to having a starter at that position. I'm not worried, but it just overall has not been consistent as much as I would like. Having said that, Kai Kroger and Mason Love are punting the crap out of the ball right now, so I'm really excited about those two guys and the way they're hitting it. And our kickers will be fine. They just we've got to keep putting them in pressure situations. And one thing that we've done this year preseason different is just putting them in pressure situations where something's on the line for the whole team, good or bad, depending on their kick, and trying to create those, if not daily, pretty much daily. Gotcha.
You good?
Yeah.
No, you obviously have 3 weeks before you have to settle that other cornerback spot opposite OD. But has there been any separation to this point, or could you see it literally playing out for 3 more weeks?
I could see it playing out, and I also think that we'll probably end up playing all three of those guys, I would imagine, in the game. I mean, I think Vicari's having a good preseason. I think Judge is having a really good – not think, I know they're having a good – Judge is having a good preseason. Vicari's flash, and then Emory Floyd has done some things as well. Judge is taking the majority of those reps right there opposite O'Donnell, but that does not mean that Judge is necessarily the first one out against Old Dominion. And we try and have a rotation and keep guys fresh and play different people. We did that, last year, and I would imagine we'll see how it goes forward. Imagine we'll, probably continue to rotate those guys in and work them all as we go forward.
Shane, the first scrimmage, that's a pretty big benchmark for the season, and I know you get excited, the guys get excited. But how is it different for you now as opposed to that first scrimmage you had when you first got here? What are you doing differently maybe that you've learned along the way, how to operate the scrimmage that you guys have changed?
Great question.
This is what I do.
Yeah, I know. Making me think. Probably just having a better understanding of physically what you need to do with the football team to have them ready to go game one, if that makes sense. Not that we weren't my first year. I think we beat Eastern Illinois 46-0 or whatever it was. So, I mean, we were ready to play, and we played well that night, obviously. But just understanding, okay, today is 3 weeks out, and making sure that I'm doing the right things in practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, leading up to that Saturday scrimmage, so our guys can do what they need to do on Saturday, and understanding that you may not need to see Rocket Sanders today as much as you needed to see Matthew Fuller and Joe Warren Howe and DJ Braswell, if that makes sense. And
so that first year, were you just trying to cram as much information in as possible and just try to crack the code that day?
Yeah, I think in that year was probably just so much, okay, we got a scrimmage, we're going to get out there for about 100 plays, let's go, and let's evaluate and all that stuff as well. But probably, I don't want to say big picture, and to answer your question, I don't think I've changed a whole lot in that but maybe one thing that I know I have is just really, probably dialed in a little bit better about where we are physically throughout the week leading into Saturday, and then knowing that, okay, this upcoming Saturday, a week from today, will be 2 weeks before the first game. So let's get those guys that are going to be playing, kind of like the NFL when they used to play 4 preseason games. The third preseason game was the one where the starters played the most, probably into the second half. And the second preseason game, I've never coached in the NFL, but from what I know, the second preseason game is where you get some of your guys that are battling to make a spot on the team. Let's get them a lot of work and see what they do. And today was probably very much like that in a lot of ways and at some positions. Whereas next week, we're going to get TJ Sanders and Tonka Hemingway and Boogie Huntley and Debo and Vershawn Lee, probably a little bit more work than they got today, so they'll be better equipped to play however many plays they got to play against Old Dominion in 2 weeks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and in the last part, can you compare the energy level for that first scrimmage to the season opener? Because I know you go through the 2-a-days, you go through 3-a-days, you got training, all that. I mean, it sucks, but when you finally get to hit people and it matters a little bit, you got that energy. How do you kind of rein that in?
Absolutely. I felt that this week in practice. You know, it's kind of odd the way the calendar fell with the NCAA. We're not allowed to be in full pads until I think it's the 6th day of practice. So today was number 8. So today was the 8th practice, so you can't be in full pads until the 6th day. So actually our first day in full pads was on Thursday. So the energy in practice on Thursday was sky high because you're putting full pads on. Justin King and his team put out that video of Thursday's practice, and it was extremely, extremely spirited being in full pads, so that was awesome. And then yesterday we took it back down a little bit. We were just in helmets, and then you kind of ramp it back up today, obviously. But there was great spirit and energy and physicality out there in the stadium, and our players, there's no doubt in my mind, they love football, they love to compete. I said it on that video, they love football, they love to compete, and we're physical. Now we just got to make sure we're playing smart and doing the things that we need to do to win football games. No one else? There we go.
You a big fan of magicians?
Magicians? Yeah. Not necessarily, but I'm a big fan of Carmichael that was here last night. He came in last year and Carmichael came in last year and did a great job with our team. And I know they look forward to him coming back. When our guys found out that he was coming back last night, they were excited, and we had a team meeting at 7, but he started doing some tricks before that, and I was down the hall in my office, and he was right out here, and I could just hear like with the players when he did some of his tricks, like all the way down the hall of them flipping out. So he did a great job with our guys. That's 2 years in a row, and grateful that he came here and spent some time with us. A lot of fun, and a lot of guys that were trying to crack the code of what he was doing, and a lot of guys that are still, their minds are blown about some of the tricks that they saw last night, for sure.
I know your big thing is competition, and you really preach that a lot with the running back room. Kind of going back to that, Rocket missed today. Mm-hmm. A lot of other guys get opportunities. I know the season's a few weeks away. How do you kind of manage? Rocket's obviously the big guy that you guys got in the portal, but like, can it help that these other guys that were getting reps instead of Rocket today? Can that kind of elevate them ahead of him potentially, or how do you kind of manage that with a guy that is so prolific in the run game?
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's competition, but to me, everything's based not just on Saturdays; it's based on what you're doing during the week too. And Rocket has done everything in practice. So before the story becomes, oh my God, Rocket Sanders is not healthy. Rocket Sanders is 100% healthy, and he's done everything in practice. And if anything, I've got to tell him to slow down a little bit, because Joe D has a special teams drill, and he pops up and he wants to be the first one in line to go do a special teams drill. And then we're doing one-on-one blitz pickup, the running backs and the linebackers, which is as physical a drill as those guys really get in a short area. And he's blocked blitzing linebackers pretty regularly in the SEC, and he's up there just taking rep after rep after rep after rep. So he's getting his work in during practice. We wanted to see some of those other guys today and just limit him a little bit, without a doubt. But it gave those other guys opportunities, certainly, to try and solidify a role on this team. But there's no question in my mind the way that Rocket is competing in practice. He's gotten better this week out there on the practice field, and expect him to continue to get better this upcoming week, starting tomorrow on the practice field also. Okay, thank you all. Sorry again for the change in location and time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.